What's up, guys? I'm AUSSIE METALHEAD. I'm doing 100 classic albums by the end of the year. I'm also doing Patreon requests. Luckily, this is both. It's been quite a while since I've listened to some Arctic Monkeys. I did AM a few months ago, and I found that album to be quite interesting because it is quite a polarizing album despite being the most streamed album on Spotify by critics, because there's a lot of critics that absolutely love it. Like Apple Music gave it, I think, like 50th on their top 100 albums of all time. But then there's a lot of people that found it to be quite like formulaic and not that risking or daring, and they pointed towards albums like this. They were like, oh, I wish Arctic Monkeys would just make albums like their debut. And I haven't heard this one, so I'm curious to see that difference. Maybe I will be more of a fan of this one. I did think AM was good. I just didn't think it was like outstanding. It has some like generationally like iconic tracks, but overall as a project it doesn't feel as cohesive, and I'm curious to see if this track will, like this album will have a bit more of that cohesion. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. It's so Oasis, this feeling. Oh, I like how much more noisy this is compared to AM. AM was such a slick back vibe. I like how rocky it is.
Set you up for disappointment in evening entertainment, but tonight there'll be some love. Tonight there'll be a ricochet regardless of what's.
Wait, this is very young blood, actually. That's the main thing.
And she won't be surprised that she won't be shocked when she's pressed the star after she's pressed so long. And there's verse and chapter sat in her inbox, and all that it says is that you've drank a lot. And you should bear that in mind tonight, bear that in mind, yeah, you should bear that in mind tonight, bear that, and you can pour your heart out, but a reason it will block. Oh, when you send her after 9 o'clock.
This is so interesting. I wouldn't have expected this sort of sound from him. I like it. It's interesting to have that, like, silent part.
And she won't be surprised that she won't be shocked when she's pressed the star after she's pressed the lock. And there's verse and chapter sat in her inbox, and all that it says is that you've drank a lot. And you should bear that in mind tonight, bear that in mind.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Oh. Oh. Yeah, I like how heavy it is. Damn. That's cute. I like that a lot. If you haven't watched one of my videos before, I do ratings on the side. These are my first listens. They're subject to change because I listen to these projects multiple times over before I post them to my Discord or my album of the year. On Discord, you can chat to me about the ratings. I'm always active in there. There's about 500 people in there, I think, now. And on my album of the year, I have about 1,200 albums rated, and you can see my written reviews there, all of the ratings across all of those albums. And before I started this channel, I maybe heard about 20 albums across my entire life. And front to back. And since starting this channel in like a year, I've listened to about 1,200, and my average rating on there is 6 out of 10 because I think I'm solely I think it's because I'm listening to better albums. Like on my Patreon, you have a $5 a month and you get to request an album, and most people are going to request good albums. And because I have about 150 people on there that have all the ability to request, some of them don't because they understand they're doing 150 albums in a month. Reactions is kind of difficult. So I appreciate that. But I also appreciate the requests because I'm listening to amazing music like this. But yeah, because of that, I mostly listen to good stuff. So I think that's the reason why it skews to about 6 out of 10 instead of a 5 out of 10, which is the average I try and strive for. Because spiritually, I think I have that. Because if something's a 5.1, I think that's above average. And with this track, if I'm being honest, I'm teetering between 9 and 10. I like to, when I'm doing reactions, go towards more like the positive. I'm not going to be like critiquing it. I'm going to fucking just vibe with the music a bit. And then I'm going to listen to this 2 or 3 times front to back afterwards. And then I'm going to try and see if there's like tiny things I dislike. But something about this track that's really interesting to me is I totally did not expect this sound from them. It reminds me of Youngblood, specifically like the I Love You Will You Marry Me sort of track. Haven't listened to much like British rock. I've only listened to Oasis. Definitely maybe I haven't listened to much Britpop. Oh, and the Bends. So I was not aware of this. Like this sounds like Youngblood kind of just copied this sort of song structure with like this kind of ADHD sort of energy to the lyrics and like the sound, and also the accent. Like Arctic Monkey sounds completely different now than they did here. And I did not expect this from Alex Turner, because whenever I see like photos and videos of Alex Turner, he looks like a looks maxer that's trying to do like stoic shit, and especially accompanied by like the AM being his biggest album and then playing like Are You Mine and all that sort of stuff. It has like a much laid back like cool bassline sort of stuff, where this shows a bit more like of a youthful energy and a bit more vulnerability, because the AM has a very stoic rocker sort of aesthetic to it. So coming back and listening to this, it's like, oh, you have a bit of like, I don't know. The reason that like Youngblood I think kills on a song like this is because he has that ADHD energy. Like, he is like a very out there bombastic sort of guy, and I just have never viewed Alex Turner that way. So it's kind of interesting to see him in this kind of light. Yeah. Ooh. I like how lively it is. I think like some of the tracks are definitely maybe don't hit me too hard because they're a bit too subdued, but this has a punchy chord. It has so much energy, I love it. I think just from these 2 tracks alone, I think I would say this is just better than AM. And I even think AM's pretty good. I love the strokesy vibes as well. Like there's vocal being very Julian Casablancas. Like it has the same sort of vocal mixing. Like it's like a bit more of an angsty version of like a Strokes song.
That you look good on the dance floor. I don't know if you're looking for romance or I don't know what you're looking for. I said I bet that you look good on the dance floor. That's a Toretto pop like a robot from 1984. It's from 1984.
I'll give this at least a 9. Like, it might even go higher on re-listens. It's just so sick. I absolutely love Is This It? That was one of the first classic albums I listened to on the channel. And basically before I did the channel, like actually recording to stuff, I went and I listened to like 300 different albums that I tried to find, like, what do I think is a 10 out of 10, what I think is a 0 out of 10 that aren't classics. I'll do a video probably titled like I listened to 1,000 albums in a year, and I'm probably going to detail all of this sort of stuff, like my journey. But yeah, I listened to about 300 albums before I listened to classics, but then I listened to Is This It, and I was like, ooh, I fucking love this. And I didn't know that how influential, I've heard of the Strokes, I think, but like I didn't know how influential they were, but like their sound, because I have heard some Arctic Monkeys, I'm like, oh, Arctic Monkeys, the Gorillaz, all of that carry that Strokesy influence. And it's like quite apparent on this record compared to, I think, AM, where AM still has a tiny bit of it, but I think this feels very strong with that. And I like a mixture of like Oasis sort of stuff, I think. I think that's where you get like the eclectic like lyricism and like rhythm of the way he talks, maybe. And then you have like that Strokesy vocals, but like it has a more angsty energy to it that I like a lot more. It's sick. I like a lot more than Oasis stuff, I think. This is on a playlist, but I think I haven't heard it before. I think it's on like a playlist of like another person. I like the double entendre there.
I don't want to hear you kick me out, kick me out. I don't want to hear you no kick me out, kick me out. I don't want to hear you kick me out, kick me out.
I like how apparent his accent is. I like the lyrical content. It's not just it sounds like it just sounds like he has something to say, but like on some AM posted him.
I don't want to hear you know. Kick me out, kick me out. Bird said it's amazing though, so all that's left is the proof that love's not only blind but deaf.
Oh. Oh, I love how it is. Oh, this is amazing. I really like the sort of English sentimentality that comes across in Australia as well, which is like the desire to, the schadenfreude of like bringing down someone that is like inauthentic, or tall poppy syndrome is what we call it in Australia, or someone that's inauthentic at the top that doesn't necessarily deserve it, and pulling them down. I don't know, because I'm Australian, I kind of like that sort of aspect of like calling out the hipsters in this in New York City, that sort of thing, and being fake from it. But I find it interesting because obviously they're very indie-ish. But I think with like lines like, you're not from New York City, you're from Rotherham, I think the fact that they go really hard, despite the fact that they have a lot of Strokes influence, it's fucking ungodly. You could argue there might be some hypocritical nature to it, but I think with like, you're from Rotherham and stuff like that, the fact that they lean so hard into their English accent and stuff like that, despite the influences clearly being there musically, you're never going to even once think that they're like from New York City. You're never once going, you're gonna 100% think that they're from England, and that's where like I feel like they might get even more comparisons to Oasis because of that than if they to the Strokes, when like the Strokes I feel like is even a stronger point. But I also like that they have a lot to, like, he has a lot to say on these records. I think one of the issues maybe some of the critics had with AM, like that subsection that disliked it, there's a lot of critics that loved it, but I think is the fact that it wasn't trying to be like, it didn't have much to say. It was just trying to be cool, and it kind of ended up doing that. Well, like The View from the Afternoon talking about, like, it comes from a hipster aesthetic, which it ties back into the New York City thing. Like the New York City indie band kind of dons this like hipster aesthetic, and I feel like they have that. Like they've shown on the first track that they kind of have that hipster vibe to them. But it's a lot more nuanced though on this track. There's no like hypocrisy involved, because you're allowed to have this bit of a hipster vibe. It's just the authenticity that comes through with that. You have to make sure you're a part of that culture. And New York City, if you're not from New York City, you can't be like that. But he has the hipster stuff, like The View from the Afternoon, of like the nightclub life, which is something that's glamorized like mainstream wise, and the false bills of goods that they kind of give you, that lifestyle seems to give you, and then I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor, talking about like the coming from another hipster aesthetic, like that there is a tiny bit of a vibe with the hipster stuff of like the loner like observing, being like, I'm better than you, and there's kind of like that kind of that vibe with the track, but I think it doesn't come across as like tasteless or cringe or too lonery. And that track's basically just talking about the superficiality of not looking for romance. I bet you just look good on the dance floor. Just the superficiality of the first two tracks of the nightclub life, and then we go into You're Not From San Francisco. I like it. They have a lot more to say on this. Like within 3 tracks, they've said more than what they did on AM.
Get on your dancing shoes. There's one thing on your mind.
The instrumentation is killer too.
Hoping they're looking for you. Sure you'll be rummaging through.
I wonder if they're going to
You've seen your future bride.
repeat themselves too much, because this is very similar to
But
other
it's
tracks.
also absurd for you to say the first word, so you're waiting and waiting, and the only reason that you came, so what you're scared for. Well, don't
Also,
you
Cage the
always do
Elephant.
the same?
Sounds very
Scared
optimistic.
for, don't you know the lights are flashing down in here tonight?
No, I think Groovy is hard.
And some might exchange a glance, but keep pretending to dance. But don't act like it's not happening, as if it's impolite to go and mention your name. Instead you'll just do the same as they all do and hope for the best. The only reason that you came, so what you scared for? Why don't you always do the same? It's what you're there for, but no!
I think this track, it touches on a very similar thing as like the prior track, but it comes from a different angle that I appreciate. Because I feel like it's more criticizing the person that, the observer, that thinks they're too good for it, which like you can kind of get that aspect if you only listen to the first two tracks.
Shoes, you sexy little swine. Hoping they're looking for you. Sure you'll be rummaging through. And I said the shit shock horror. You've seen your future bride, yeah. Yeah, but it's all so absurd.
I'll give it like a 7.5, 8. I think it's like good to great track. Leaning more towards great. I like it. Instrumentation is just so good. I like the fucking lyric.
Everybody's trying to crack the jokes and that to make you smile. Those that claim that they're not showing up are drowning in denial, but they're not half as bad as me. Say anything and I'll agree, 'cause when it comes to acting up, I'm sure I could write the book. And now that
I like the self-awareness, like it allows like the more pretentious sheens of like the fire tracks to come through, like that to not come through. I'll tell you 9.5. I think it's just a bit about dancing shoes. I like the vocals there. It's also cool because like his vocals aren't changing too much. Each track has like a very similar rhythm to like this very fast pace. His vocals aren't like going to a much higher register or anything like that. It's like this very talky sort of singing. And it's interesting that the lyrics are just, he's having so much to say that it doesn't get stale. Like something like this, I feel like if you just keep up the energy the entire time and don't have like a more of a slower track or something like that, or if you don't show more range when it comes to vocally, it could get a bit tedious. But because of the very focused songwriting and lyricism on each track, I don't think, like I'm not even remotely like, oh, you have to switch it up. I don't have any of those feelings. Where it's something like if another band that had like a little less talent, I guess, or something like that, or forethought, that would be an issue that could occur.
I don't think you're cool. You're just probably alright, but under these lights you look beautiful, and I'm struggling. I can't see through your fake tan. Yeah, you know it for a fact that everybody's eating out of your hands. But what do you know? Oh, you know nothing. Yeah, but I'd still take you home. Oh, yeah, I'd still take you home. So what do you know? That you don't know nothing. Well, fancy seeing you in here. You're all tarted up and you don't look the same. Well, I have seen you since last year. Yeah, surprisingly, you have forgotten my name, but you know it. Yeah, you knew it all along.
I love this track.
Oh, when you say you have forgotten, but you're fibbing, oh, tell me I'm wrong. So what do you know? Oh,
I like how he's like donning this like arse aesthetic. It shows some like humility.
So what do you know? Oh, you don't know nothing, no.
Ooh. That's good.
laughing. I fancy you with a passion. I give a top shop princess a rock star too. But you're a fad, you're a fashion, and I'm having a job trying to talk to you, but it's alright. Yeah, I'll put it on one side. Oh, 'cause everybody's looking. You've got the troll of everyone's eyes, including mine.
I actually love this. I love this for a lot of different reasons I didn't know before I came into this. There's like anyway, I'll explain, I guess, like the track a tiny bit and why I enjoy it. I like the whole idea of like this person that thinks they're too good for this girl. So a bit like, there's a decent amount of sexist undertones towards it. Like, oh, you just care about your parents, you're a top shop princess, all that sort of stuff. Like, and the lack of humility, like the entitlement sort of thing, where it's like, unsurprisingly, you forgot my name, which I don't know if that's sarcastic. If that's sarcastic, then it kind of goes into the fact that she's vain, which, and then if it's not sarcastic, then it shows the ego of the person being like, oh, I'm just so cool, like, why don't you like me, sort of thing. And I like that sort, like highlighting that aspect of a lot of guys and dating culture and that sort of thing, where like guys, the typical, I guess, like, I hate sluts, but I'm always going to be the ones that try and get them. Like, every single person that goes on a fucking, like, Fresh and Fit podcast, like, all of those audience members are the one, like, the reason why those girls go on them is because the audience will sub to their Patreon, like, to their, not their Patreon. Patreon's a lot different. But sub to their OnlyFans afterwards, and it's just that sort of dichotomy. And one of the tracks that I really like, don't act, like, I'm just gonna say, don't fucking give them any sort of attention, because they are genuine Nazis, like, they're gropers. But there's this track, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World ruined a whole generation of women. And what I like about that track, and it's the only one I've listened to that I've actually enjoyed by them, and I will tepidly enjoy their stuff because I don't agree with, like, their messages are actually fucking bad. But what I like about that song is basically them just shitting on, like, girls or whatever. It would be better if it's from a satirical sort of perspective like this, but it's not. But the concept of, like, being a satire of a person, like an incel like them, and then being like, I just shitting on these, like, women that they're pining over so much. And the part that I do like about that song is them being like, pathetically, like, they literally acted out, they're like, I'd still fuck them though. And it's just like, that sort of, I don't know, pointing out that, hypocrisy or whatever in dating culture I really like. And I didn't realize that there was a song I could listen to that wasn't made by some Nazis. I could just listen to Still Take You Home because it has the same sort of vibe to it. Granted, the other one is filled with a whole lot more, like, meme shit, and a whole lot more, like, post-irony and stuff, but which gives it a different flavor and more internet flavor. But this feels like a 2000s version of that track if it was made by the light side and not the Sith sort of shit. But yeah, good track, fucking top tier.
So rolls a riot van and sparks excitement in the boys.
Oh, I like
But
the
policemen look annoyed.
I like this
Perhaps these are ones they should avoid.
more intimate tone and shit.
Got a chase last night from men with truncheons dressed in hats. We didn't do that much wrong, still ran away though for the laugh, just for the laugh. And please just stop talking, cause they won't find us if you do.
I think I've heard Mardy Bum, and I think this is what I expected earlier Arctic Monks to sound like. I didn't know they would have so much more upbeat shit.
Catch me and you. Have you been drinking, son? You don't look old enough to me. I'm sorry, officer, is there a certain age you're supposed to be?
He's been very biting and critiquing a lot of this sort of stuff. It is nice to have more an empathetic track and, like, tone as well. That's a nice dimension.
That's why they don't catch proper crooks. They get their address and their names took, but they couldn't care less.
I'd say it's a great track. I like it more tonally for the album than as a song. Even though I think it's quite great, like it doesn't have the same sort of star power as like a lot of the other tracks, but I think it carries a nice dimension to the album.
The coppers kicked him in, and there was no way he could win. Just had to take it on the chin.
I like extra probably, right?
We'll ask if we can have 6 in. If not, we'll have to have 2. We all coming up at our end, aren't you? So I'll get 1 with you. I want you let us have 6 in, especially not with the food. He could have just told us no, though. He didn't have to be rude. You see her with the green dress. She talked to me at the bar. Well, how come it's already £2.50? We've only gone about a yard. Didn't you see she were gorgeous? She would beyond belief. But this lad at the side drinking a Smirnoff Ice came and paid for a tropical reef. And I'm sitting going backwards, and I didn't want to leave. I said it's I agree, mate, by a Hillsborough, please. Well, I'm funny with that sketch earlier, up near that taxi rank. Although you will have missed it, I think it was when you went to the bank. These 2 lads squaring up, proper shouting. Oh, we're next in the queue. The kind of thing that seems so silly, but not when they both had a few. Oh, well, calm down, temper, temper. We just shouldn't get so annoyed. Well, you're acting like a silly little boy. Well, they wanted to be men and do some fighting in the street. They said no surrender, no counter retreat.
I'm gonna give it 8 because I think it's a great track, but I think I do like it more than Riot Band quite a bit. So maybe Riot Band goes down a bit.
So riding in a taxi, 'cause I didn't want to leave. I said it's I agree, mate, by a Hillsborough, please. Well, drunken blocks managed to jump it. Ask around, are you sure? Went for it, but the red light was showing. The red light indicates doors are secure.
Based. I have heard Mardy Bum, but it's been quite a long time because a lot of these bands I knew I was going to do their album, so I haven't had this song. So it's been like maybe 3 years or so.
Well, now that Mardy Bum, I've seen your frown and it's like looking down the barrel of a gun and it goes off.
I actually don't even know what the fucking song is about, so I'll
There's a very pleasant side to you, a side I much prefer. It's one that's laughs and jokes around. Remember cuddles in the kitchen, yeah, to get.
Well, this is
things
the
off the
first track that is
ground.
like
It was
not focusing about the nightlife, but like actually focusing about the domestic life of that. That's cool.
Remember that on a day like today when you're all argumentative and you've got the face on. Now that Mardy Bum, oh, I'm in trouble again, aren't I? I thought as much, 'cause you turned over there and pulling that silent disappointment face, the one that I can't bear. Well, can't we just laugh and joke around? Remember cuddles in the kitchen, yeah, to get things off the ground. And it was up and away. Oh, but it's really hard to remember that on a day like today when you're all argumentative and you've got the face on. And yeah, I'm sorry I was late, but I missed the train and then the traffic was a state, and I can't be asked to carry on if yeah, to get things off the ground, and it was up and away. Oh, but it's really hard to remember that on a day like
It's so interesting.
when you're old.
I like it a lot. I like it a lot more in the context of this album now. Because I thought it was like already a perfect track or whatever when I heard it for the first time. But now in the context of this album, I like it a whole lot more. Because the way that he's been talking about like modern like lad culture in a way, and like the follies of that sort of thing, I feel like this is a really nice aspect to talk about. Where like, if you're picturing like the usual guy that goes to like the clubs and because the way that Alex Turner is like writing from, I assume Alex Turner's doing the writing. I'm sorry, he's just the frontman. There's other members of bands. I need to stop thinking about the frontman. But the way that they're writing, it depicts they're writing from this like place of like knowing the issues, like observing these issues in guys and the like culture, the superficiality, all of that sort of shit. And I think it's quite important to be able to have a track where like if you picture that sort of person that are having those issues that he's talking to, like that he's been observing, what's the most like typical sort of issues that you would find from like a typical young guy when it comes to a relationship? It is this sort of stuff that is like she's getting angry and like confronting him about like him being careless with her time, being a bit negligent, that sort of thing. And then him like the track sort of embodying the guy's perspective. I like that sort of like, it's like toxic. I don't want to say it's like fully toxic because it's such a normalized thing that it feels like it's a bit hard, because if you say something's toxic, then it feels like you're getting really close to like abusive sort of territory. And because it's ingrained within the system, like the guys seem to be raised this way for whatever reason, it feels weird to use language that harsh. But like this sort of downplaying of her feelings that like guys sort of do, where it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, like can't we just go back to when we cuddle and all that sort of stuff? Like, why do you have to make such a big deal about it? Like the belittling of the girl's feelings and that sort of thing. He's painted such a picture of the sort of people that he's talking about in the last like 8 tracks, that and how they are in public life. And it's really nice that he's like shining the curtain on like how this is kind of manifesting in private life into common issues we see in relationships so often. Yeah, I like it. Ooh. I like that.
And though you pretend to stand by us, I know you're certain we'll fail. Well, I've seen your eyes as they fix on me, full of confusion. Your snarl is just so condescending. Try to explain that we're on to a win. If the fee we got in, they recoups what we're spending. He said, I can't believe that you drove all that way. Well, how much did they pay you? How much did they pay you? You'd have been better to stay round our way, thinking about things, but not actually doing the things. Cause all you people are vampires, and all your stories are stale.
I've only heard AM,
And though you pretend to stand
so I don't have like much
by
life to stand on when saying this.
I know you're
I kind of miss this
certain
sort of
we'll
punky energy.
fail. Cause all you people are vampires.
Like calling out like, and so like there's like a
I know you pretend to stand
nice
by
Earns rebellious energy here.
Certain will fail.
I like this. Most people don't usually like these sort of interlude stuff, like when you look at Endless, Nameless, that sort of thing of Nirvana. But I like it. I'd say it's at least great. Also, I'm sorry that you couldn't see this. You probably couldn't see for the lights. That's an 8.5.
All you people are vampires.
It's interesting. This track is calling out the radio station like you're sure that will fail, and it like not the radio, like the label executives and stuff like that. They want you to do these like formulaic sort of tracks, and it's cool that on this is like the most fuck you sort of track in regards to that, because they're like, nah, for fucking half of it, I'll just do an instrumental, which I know you guys fucking hate. It's like kind of embodying the message. At least, you know, I like it.
So who's that girl there?
Ah,
Wonder
but this
what
one.
went wrong so that she had to roam the streets. She doesn't do major credit cards, I doubt she does receipts. It's all not quite legitimate. And what a scummy man. Just give him half a chance, I bet he'll rob you if he can. Can see it in his eyes, yeah, that he's got a driving ban amongst some other offences.
Oh, I always read that as banned,
And I've seen him with girls of the night,
which makes no
and
sense.
he
but-
told Roxanne to put on her red light. They're all infected, but he'll be alright, cause he's a scumbag, don't you know? I said he's a scumbag, don't you know?
Yeah, one of the most iconic fucking.
Although you're trying not to listen, avert your eyes and staring at the ground. She makes a subtle proposition. I'm sorry, love, I'll have to turn you down. Oh, we must be up to summer. What are the chances? Sure, it's more than likely. I've got a feeling in my stomach. I start to wonder what his story might be. What his story might be. Yeah, 'cause they said it changes when the sun goes down. Yeah, they said it changes when the sun goes down. And they said it changes when the sun goes down. Around here. Around here. Oh. Look, here comes the portmanteau. Isn't he Mr. Inconspicuous? And he don't even have to say, oh. She's in the stands ready to get picked up. Bet she's delighted when she sees him. Pulling in and giving her the eye. Because she must be fucking freezing. Scantily clad beneath the clear night sky. It does stop in the winter now. And they said it changes when the sun goes down. Yeah,
It's really nice listening to these two songs that I've heard before, but like actually paying attention to the lyrics more now instead of just like loving the instrumentation and
What a
shit.
scummy man. Just give him half a chance, I bet he'll rob you if he can. And see it in his eyes, yeah, that he's got a nasty plan. I hope you're not involved at all.
Yeah, I'd say obviously a 10. I really like this, because again, like him talking about all the nightlife sort of stuff. If you're, I guess, like if you were a lesser sort of indie hipster sort of shit band, you would just talk about that, throw some stones, basically being a bit pick me in that regard. On like a more service level, like, oh, you guys are all superficial, all that sort of shit. And you wouldn't have tracks like this where you're showcasing like a bit more depth to it. So like talking about like the nightlife and the scummy superficial sort of people that go there, but then also shedding some light on especially at this point in time, like the 2000s, like the not seen workers that all make it work. Because like nightlife wouldn't be nightlife if a lot of the time if there wasn't strip clubs, if there wasn't sex workers, if there wasn't the people that are usually shunned, and showcasing it through like what a scummy man, sort of that like predating on this person, or trying to like, I need to read a bit more into I could have a bit of media literacy, but like the whole like talk about like it changes when the sun goes down. I don't know if I'm reading this wrong. I'm reading it as like a guy saying that to a sex worker being like, oh, or it's, I don't know, there's two meanings for it. Like everything changes when the sun goes down, because that's when like the dark underbelly sort of comes out, that sort of thing, which the dark underbelly is just like sex work and strip clubs and all of that sort of stuff, and the predation that can go along with that. But it also can be read as like, oh, it all changes when the sun goes down, of like, I don't know, like the view, like the objectification of these women and stuff like that. Like, oh, it's okay. I can't get you now, but I will be able to get it when the sun goes down. Or it could be similarly. Actually, I think that's the main part of like thing I was thinking about. But yeah, I like that they're showing this, like having tracks more like this instead of just throwing stones at like another group of like people because they're in like a different social scene or whatever the fuck. It's showcasing like a more deeper understanding of the issues. Yeah, I like it. This is a good album. It's a great album, at least.
Last night these two bouncers, and one of them's alright, the other one's a scary, and his way or no way, totalitarian. He's got no time for you, looking or breathing how he don't want you to. So step out the queue, he makes examples of you, and there's no you can say. Behind the go through to the bit where you pay, and you realise then that it's finally the time to walk back past 10,000 eyes in a line, and you can swap jumpers and make another move. It's still in your brain, you've got something to prove to all the smirking faces and the boys in black. Why can't it be pleasant? Why can't he have a laugh? He's got his hand in your chest, he wants to give you a dub. But secretly I think
I love this.
to kick off, they want arms flying everywhere, and balls as well. It's just something to talk about, a story to tell ya. Well, to grab and turn us all away, we'll put it down to fate.
Instrumental is one of my favorites.
I would never say this morning. Got too deep, but how deep is too deep?
I like that bass. It doesn't rely on it as much as I am, but it's still effective enough. It's just so immaculately produced as well.
Last night, what we talked about, it made so much sense. But now the haze has ascended, it don't make no sense anymore.
I'll give it a 9. But it could go up. It's like in I Bet You Look Good on Dance Floor, so it could go up. Yeah, it was fucking great. Certain romance. I love this. Such a nice instrumental.
Loading might wear classic Reeboks or knackered Converse or tracky bottoms tucked in socks. But all of that's what the point is not. The point's that there ain't no romance around there. And there's the truth that they can't see. They'd probably like to throw a punch at me. And
Oh,
if
shit.
you could
I
only
didn't mean to
see
do
them,
that.
then you would agree. Agree that there ain't no romance around there. You know, oh, it's a funny thing, you know. We'll tell them if you like. We'll tell them all tonight. They'll never listen because their minds are made up. And course it's all okay to carry on that way. 'Cause over there, there's broken bones. There's only music so that there's new ringtones. And it doesn't take no Sherlock Holmes to see it's a little different around here. Don't get me wrong though, there's boys in bands and kids who like to scrap with pool cues in their hands. And just 'cause he's had a couple of cans, he thinks it's alright to act.
This has like a more loving feel though, and I think it's earned because they showed more depth than just like basic, like superficial critiques. Nice bass.
Over there, there's friends of mine. What can I say? I've known them for a long, long time. And they might overstep the line, but you just cannot get angry in the same way. No, not in the same way. So not in the same way. Oh no, oh no, no.
This is one of those 9s that are like 9.5s or 10s if I go over this one. This is a fucking great album. Like, I'd say it's just an amazing album. I think I like it more than Death Maybe. And that might be the king of like the Brit pop sort of shit. Except unless you count the bands, which I think the bands is the best one. I'll also do it now. Fuck it. I'll give these 0.5s at the end. Oh, the guitar there how it was playing kind of reminded me a tiny bit of like Radiohead stuff. Like this. Reminds me of OK Computer. On the left here. Yeah, this is a really fucking good album. It feels like one of those examples of like Arctic Monkeys have become like the biggest band on the planet, right? I feel like that's fair to say, because Imagine Dragons might have more streams and stuff like that here and there, but they have a whole lot less cultural cachet. Like Imagine Dragons, they're getting big because they do a bunch of like movie soundtracks sort of tracks. Arctic Monkeys, my understanding is they don't do that. They're just like a band that got the biggest, right? And it reminds me a bit of like, I guess, Green Day and shit like that, where like a lot of the punk rock aesthetics and stuff like that, and the authenticity that was shining through their music, Green Day's a bit different because I feel like they keep it up. It's just the dichotomy of like, they are just so big that they become the mainstream, therefore their critiques lose their weight. The same way that Bruce Springsteen or Creedence Clearwater Revival with Fortunate Son or Born in the USA don't have the same punch. Arctic Monkeys and Green Day don't have the same punch because you're the biggest fucking bands ever. So it's just like, there's nothing that's like, with Arctic Monkeys, I do think they've changed a tiny bit. Like, hearing AM, I feel like they've changed. Maybe I'll listen to the car or something like that, and I won't. But especially naming your like AM, that's self-titled. That's your self-titled, and it's like the Sellout album, right? I like a lot of, I think all the tracks on there are good, and I don't think Sellout albums are necessarily bad. I love American Idiot, which a lot of people consider to be the Sellout albums. Granted, a great Sellout album, which granted, it's funny because American Idiot is on there. And besides that punk rock sort of vibe to it, it's just more poppy. Same thing could be said for AM, but they don't go and actually talk about the same amount of the lyrical content as something on like this. And it's just interesting to see how these bands change when they become just the biggest fucking things ever. And Arctic Monkeys, I wouldn't have guessed, because in high school I know like 505, I knew Mardy Bum, I knew a few of the tracks off of AM, like 3 or 4. And I loved them, and I showed my mum, and that's when I knew like, oh, Arctic Monkeys they're gonna be popular. Because at this point in time, I think like fucking, I think Are You Mine or something like that had like 80 million streams or something like that, back in like 2017, 2016, 17, 18, and then I showed my mum, and my mum's like, oh, I really like this, put it on a post. I'm like, oh, okay, it has cross-generational support, so I think it's probably gonna go big, and then end up being the biggest fucking album ever. So, but I wouldn't have guessed they would have become the biggest band. It is a cool underdog. When you hear about this album, it sounds super cool. Like when I'm thinking in the context of this album, it's super cool that they're the biggest band ever. Like that's like a really cool thing. But them being the biggest band, mostly because of AM, feels okay, that's a bit different. Because this feels like if it was just from this album and just albums like this, that were the reason they're the biggest band, I'd be like, oh, that's like subversive. That's cool. But no. But this is an amazing album. Thank you guys so much for requesting it. Fucking love it. But yeah, if you want to support further, you can go to my Patreon, $5 a month. You guys request an album. I can't do any albums that aren't requested. So if you want to receive more Arctic Monkeys, I just need one person request. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Absolutely love you. Peace.